Welcome to Shurima. February 18th. Wait, that's today. Is this out? How the fuck he survive all that? So is Nasus like an underworld thing? Is it gonna be Nasus with Shadow Isles? And that one's a seer? Okay. All right. Empires of the Ascended. Where are the cards though, huh? They're not out of Mobalytics. Mobalytics is 1 minute late. Okay. Buried Sun Disk, landmark, new keyword, countdown. It's all about the keyword. Round start, I count down 1. Perfect. At 0, destroy me and activate the countdown effect. Wait, so Buried Sun Disk happens in 25 turns? What? No. Draw one of me if all your cards are Shurima. When an Ascendant ally levels, advance me 10 rounds. So basically, it's an Allegiance card. You draw it at the start of the game, and it waits 25 turns, but when an Ascendant levels up, it's like 15 turns, and when it levels up twice, it just restores the Sun Disk immediately. We don't know what that does yet. Is Mobalytics... Yo, wait, okay. Mobalytics is refreshed. We have all the new cards, left to right. Destined Poro. 1 mana, 1/1, round start. If you've leveled the champion, transform into Exalted Poro, which is, I have 3 random keywords. What the hell? So all you have to do is level a champion, and it's a 1 mana 2/2. I have 3 random keywords. That's not bad. You can combine that with some champions that are really easy to level. It doesn't have to be on board either. It just has to be, well, for a champion to be leveled, it has to play to the board, but it can die off the board, right? Presumably, when a champion has its full level counter, it's not leveled until it actually hits the board. Okay, Restored Sundisk. Immediately draw one of all your Ascendants. For the rest of the game, your level 2 Ascendants or level 3. We'll have to see what that means when we look at more Ascendants later. Esteemed Hierophant. When I'm summoned, advance your buried Sundisk 2 rounds. And it's a 3-mana 3/4. Zoom in, we can't see. It's hard to like zoom in past this without actually like, how's that? There we go. Oh wait, you can just go down here. Okay, here we go. How's that, guys? Is that better? Esteemed Hierophant, 3-mana 3/3, and it advances 2. Devoted Council is a 3-mana 1/6. Round start, if you've leveled the champion, heal your champions a Nexus 2. Interesting. That's pretty powerful. Healing your Nexus 2 every round for a 3-mana card actually has a lot of worth. So yeah, a lot of them just have to do with like having leveled the champion. Golden Ambassador. Allegiance, draw a champion and grant it +2/+2. So this is effectively can be like a tutor. Especially if you only have, you know, a specific champion to draw. Voice of the Risen. If you've leveled the champion, allies have +2 attack passively as a 4/3/4. That one's probably not going to be viable. Ascended's Rise. Level up all level 1 Ascended allies. Do we know what Ascended means exactly yet? Have they actually shown that? I don't see it in any of these cards. Are they just teasing us? all of these cards have to do with ascendants and ascendants, but we don't know what they are. So presumably they're like level 3 champs. I mean, from what we can infer, as ascendants are, it's a 3-level system at least, right? Because it says level 1 Ascendants, level 2 Ascendants, and level 3 Ascendants. We don't know exactly what they are. Zareth, Nasir, Nasus, Asir, and Renekton are going to level up 3 times. That could be. Basically, they have like 3 different levels. We can't even analyze these cards yet. Yeah. I mean, it's probably a special type of champion that levels 3 times. Like, that does make sense. That's a good guess. But that's really, really interesting. Okay, so, again, this is going to be basically impossible to evaluate because we don't know what any of these are actually going to do. But we can talk about, like, how we feel about the mechanics here and some of the, you know, the keywords and what kind of gameplay they're going to lead to. The Destined Poro is pretty funny. So, one thing we can think about, a lot of these effects, there will be some kind of Shurima concept that will be built on leveling a champion as fast as possible so that, you know, you get all these if you've leveled the champion proc effects. What's the champion that's just kind of like the most free level up? I guess Katarina will level up quickly, but it's going to lose you the game. Okay, outside of losing you the game instantly, like Katarina. What's the champion that levels up the easiest? Callista can level up fast. Riven can level up fast. Lulu, Garen. Yeah. There will be some that level up pretty fast. Fizz is also a quick leveler. If you want consistency, you have to play mono Shurima. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% mono, but the Buried Sundisk will do that. So when the Sundisk gets restored, it draws one of each of your Ascendants. I mean, I'm kind of guessing that Ascendants can only get to level 3 off of the Sundisk, or maybe off of additional effects, but it sort of seems like they can't get to level 3 otherwise, right? I mean, that would make sense, because Buried Sundisk is supposed to be this whole thing. It's like part of the region identity, and we've got cards that specifically work with the Sundisk, like Esteemed Hierophant, right? I like this countdown concept. Countdown is pretty cool. Is Restored Sundisk a landmark? Yeah, they just forgot to say the word landmark on it. Didn't they forget to say that on the new Targon landmark too? It just doesn't have the. It just doesn't say it. Yeah, no, that's a landmark too. Okay. That's pretty interesting. It breaks immediately. Yeah, I might. So, what this means is you can play Buried Sundisk basically on turn 1 of the game. It needs to be, you know, on the board to actually trigger countdown, right? Yeah. So, you have to play it on turn 1 of the game there. It's basically just like, you know, I built this card. I built this, like, 40-card Shurima deck. This is beyond an allegiance effect. Normal allegiance effects, you have, like, typically often you have 3 non-allegiance cards, but, you know, there's obviously a bit of wiggle room. With Buried Sundisk, you need 0 non-allegiance cards, right? It needs to be literally 40-card Shurima. If you want to draw the Buried Sundisk at the start of the game, draw one of me if all your cards are Shuriman. And, I mean, what that means is you actually probably only need to run 1 Buried Sundisk, which is kind of neat too. Because multiples are going to be kind of redundant. Yet another extreme late game strategy. So, for the most part, we don't really know if Countdown is going to be extreme late game or not yet. The thing is, there will be 2 ways for Countdown to work. It can be removed. Yeah, of course it can be removed. Guys, any landmark can be removed. But we're not going to run 2 of this card just because it can be removed. Like, that doesn't work. Okay, there's 2 ways Countdown is going to work. Countdown is either going to be a mechanic where you ascend one of your things and to make your countdown 15. Well, I'm sorry, when I say countdown, I mean Buried Sundisk. You're either going to ascend one of your things to make Buried Sundisk 15, turn 15, and then you would you know, make Esteemed Hierophant and maybe a couple other advanced Sundisk things if they are other things. And you'd play a couple of these such that your Sundisk would flip around Time of Enlightenment, right? Sundisk, I guess it would be round 16 because you missed the round 1 start. So it'll be like round 16 naturally with 1 Ascendant, and then a couple of like advancements would make it like a reasonable time before the game ends, like round 10-ish. Alternatively, it could just be that this will be a deck built around just ascending twice, in which case you only need to wait until round 6, right? To get this effect, and then your ascendants will be level 3. Now, presumably you can't even level twice reasonably by round 6, so it'll just be whenever it happens, but we don't know necessarily if it's going to be a super late game strat, is all I'm saying, right? It's very possible that this will be run with just decks that try to like turbo ascend twice, and what that will mean is you can pop off early, right? 3 destroyed landmarks incoming. Yeah, so the reason you're not really going to run 2 Buried Sundisks is because, well, I mean, it can in theory depend if landmark removal is extremely common, but even if it's just a little bit common, it doesn't make any sense to do. Shurima is 100% going to get more cards that lower the countdown. Yes, it seems very likely that they'll get more cards to lower the countdown. So, again, hard to actually evaluate these cards, hard to really theory craft around them. This is really just kind of like a teaser, right? They're just showing us, like, some of the stuff that... some of the stuff that will happen, right? And without knowing, like, you know, a lot of the, you know, core concepts of these strategies, we have no idea how viable these are going to be, right? Like, a lot of you guys are saying, you know, these cards look like they're going to be kind of, like, meme level. We have no idea. I mean, that could be true, but it's impossible to say, right? Then we've got the bottom row here. And these are ones that are actually, like, a little more able to evaluate. Shurima's kind of double dipping in allegiance these are probably going to be some like the first decks people are going to make. Less competitive decks, almost certainly. And those are going to be like the 40 card mono deck where you're proccing Buried Sundisk for free and you're getting the Golden Ambassador Allegiance for free. Draw a champion and grants it +2/+2. Is pretty slow depending on the meta and depending on the champ that you're getting from that. That can be definitely very viable. Absolutely. But a lot of the +2/+2 is going to happen, you're going to gain most of the benefit from later there. So we have to think, okay, so from Golden Ambassador, what champion do we want to draw here on turn 4 from a tempo loss play that a permanent grant +2/+2 would be helpful for? I mean, Garen's kind of funny. You can pull Garen next turn. Of course, this is mostly going to be run with Shurima champions because people will want to double dip with Buried Sundisk, which you can't run other champions for. Lee Sin, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that it just like we have no idea if they're gonna make sense. Katarina, this is like the worst thing with Katarina, guys. Oh my god. I figured Sundisk meant all cards in your hand. We don't really know, but I kind of doubt it. When it says all of your cards, to me that implies like the whole deck, the 40 card mono, right? All the Shurima champs might be easy to level to 2, and then 3 might be a super power spike. Yeah, presumably, I mean, there will have to be some major payoff to, like, getting this whole Buried Sundisk side quest, which is pretty cool. I mean, I do like the Legends of Runeterra identity of these built-in champion mini quests. I think that quests are a cool concept in card games if executed right. And Shurima kind of has, like, a double-layered quest, right? Because, like, you've got your champ level up. It'll level from 1 to 2, however it does. And then, presumably, all your champs can level to 3 off of Sundisk, would be my guess. Although, maybe they have their own way of leveling to 3, or maybe there's other non-Sundisk ways. Those are possible. So, I don't really know. But yeah, Golden Ambassador, for the most part, we have no idea what Shurima champions are going to look like, and we have no idea what, like, if the rest of Shurima could be conducive towards this being ran with other things. But for the most part, Golden Ambassador is going to have like this kind of effect has a hard time being competitive without like a really high degree of synergy. And if that synergy exists, it's going to be great. If it doesn't, it might be a little underwhelming, but it actually looks pretty good. It looks like one of the better Allegiance ones. Devoted Council. If you've leveled a champion, heal your champions and Nexus 2. So, being able to heal your Nexus 2 every turn is sort of like Brokeback Protector. Similar stat line. This one's obviously cheaper, less health, and it heals your Nexus by 2 instead of 3, but it's more sustainable. It doesn't damage itself, and it heals your champions as well. So it's kind of like a better version of Brokeback Protector with a different condition, in that you have to have leveled the champion. Looks actually pretty decent in a meta where you need a lot of healing. We don't know how much Shurima's going to have access to, but presumably it won't be that hard to level up a champion in a Shurima deck that's built around it early on. Golden Ambassador, if your only non-Shurima card is Zoe. So yeah, just drawing a turn 5 3/3 Zoe. That's not bad. I feel like turn 5 Zoe is a little late, but I mean, a 3/3 is kind of adorable. Then we've got Voice of the Riven. Allies have +2 attack. This is a pretty awkward keyword in general. For a 4/3/4 stat line, immediately, as I mentioned, like when I saw this card, this kind of effect is a bit weaker, but if there's something in Shurima that can actually benefit from like a wide board of +2 attack, and this is like, did I say Voice of the Riven? This is the kind of keyword that or not keyword, but the kind of effect that we've maybe seen with elusives a little bit, like a board wide plus attack buff, but it's gonna be a little awkward. It's a 4 mana 5/4. It's a 4 mana 5/4 if you've leveled the champion on turn 3. It's very possible that Shurima will have some kind of champion that levels on turn 3 really early on, And this could, as you guys are mentioning, this could lead to like a 0 token generation where, you know, it has a bunch of like just small weenies like 1/1s or something and it makes them 3/1s. If you can level a champion by turn 3, I think this card is going to be pretty sweet. I think if it's after turn 3, that will immediately be a bit more awkward. Ascended's Rise. Level up all level 1 Ascended allies. Now, what this means, and you know, for a 7-mana slow spell that does nothing else, this is going to be pretty slow. Presumably this only affects things on your board. Again, we don't really know how level 1, how Ascendeds work at all. I mean, my only guess is that it can take your level 1s to level 2. But, I mean, what's interesting about that is, I mean, does that possibly mean that Ascendeds don't level outside of external things? Do they need to be leveled externally? Do they not have their own mini quests? I don't know. All of the champs will probably be Ascended, but there might be followers that can level up too. That's actually a pretty good guess. It would make sense that there's, you know, mostly it's the champs that are Ascendeds, but like 1 or 2 followers that make sense to like just kind of also additionally have the Ascended keyword. That's a good guess. I like that. Like Senna. Yeah. Some like sort of like followers that have some properties of champs. Ascended is something like Enlightened and not a champ level up. Yeah, exactly. So like there's like Karma and Edivia that have Enlightened, and then there's like 2 or 3 forgotten followers that also have Enlightened, but they also technically have it. Except in this case, we're hoping that they don't, you know, they're not going to just get forgotten about, but yeah, sort of like that. Exactly. All right. So yeah, pretty cool. Overall, again, the first pack, completely impossible to evaluate. We have literally no idea. But I'm liking some of the themes we have going on. I like that there's going to be, it seems like a higher degree of like synergy and like mini quests and sort of, I don't want to say alternate win con, but a quest is kind of like an alternate win path. It like a different play style, right? With a different sort of semi-objective, right? A different way to try to get to the idea of value, right? Which is pretty cool. I like that. Overall, can't evaluate these cards on any sort of competitive level. Lonely Poro nerfed. Yeah, Lonely Poro can get Destined Poro as well now too. What do you guys think? Have I missed out on any like weird synergies here? Stuff that exists and works with the pre-existing cards that I just haven't noticed? Exalted Poro, Plunder Poro. Couldn't you completely obliterate the Sundisk game plan with any landmark removal? Yeah, but that's how landmark removal works. That's always true of landmark removal. I mean, the thing about Sundisk is that the game plan gets obliterated, but you're pretty happy. So the reason I was specifically saying okay, so you're never gonna like, I can't see all the cards, so I don't know. I can imagine some bizarre universe where you do run multiple buried Sundisks. But the reason I was saying specifically it's very unlikely that you'll run more than 1 buried Sundisk is that it doesn't really matter, right? First of all, having 2 of them in your deck is just a huge liability for a lot of reasons. Playing the second one is completely bricked unless you expect it to get removed. If you expect it to get, if it gets removed, it'll get removed late, which means you have to play the second one early because countdown only works when it's on the board, and you have to play the second one early, assuming that one of them is going to get removed, at which point they just won't waste mana removing it, and you'll have wasted mana and a card playing a second one for no reason because you have to play it before the removal happens, which doesn't make any sense. And on top of both of those, the biggest point of all of that is you aren't unhappy if this gets removed, right? Like, it is technically true that when you play Buried Sundisk and they play a landmark removal, you're kind of like, oh, boo-hoo, I've got a 40-card Shurima deck now. But they just spent 2 or 3 mana more than you did, and potentially an extra card more than you did, because you drew Buried Sundisk for free, for free. It's not just 1 mana for 3. It's not just 1 mana for 4, depending on how they remove it. You drew this card for free, and you're totally happy because it's not like it's your deck's only win con. If it was something like Starspring in Tom Soraka, I mean, even that, you're happy if that happens, but it's like, that's a case where it's more so going to be your deck's only win con. In this case, your deck is going to have even more diverse win cons than that. So I would be pretty shocked if you were ever going to run more than 1 Buried Sun Disc. Pretty shocked. Like that wouldn't really make sense, right? Just because of all those things. There could be some very bizarre strategy. Like, you can imagine some insane card pool where this is like discard fodder, because presumably this is an additional card in your starting hand. So what that means is if you run 3 of them and they just all get added to your hand, then unless they get added to your hand in the mulligan, we don't know if it's an additional card in hand or just like something you get in the mulligan. I should clarify that. It could be something that you just auto mulligan for. It just says draw 1 of me. Yeah, it specifically says draw 1 of me. So you can't even draw multiple of them. Yeah, exactly. So there's just no reason to ever run more of 1 of this card. Like that, again, it's not impossible. We don't know the new cards, but that would just be really, really surprising. I can almost guarantee you guys this is a 1 of. But there's not anything wrong with that. Just because of this card's identity, you're happy if this ever gets removed, almost always. Or at the very least, you're not sad, you know? But yeah, that's kind of like one conclusion I can say about these cards that might not be immediately apparent at first. But the rest of anything I want to say is going to be like super speculatory. Can Lonely Poro get Exalted Poro instead of Destined? Presumably not. That's a good guess. Usually cards that generate random cards can't get tokens that you can't main deck. So we can guess Lonely Poro can't get Exalted, but we can't be sure. Okay. But yeah, that's kind of my initial impression of these first 9 revealed cards. Overall, I do like what we're seeing out of Shurima. This has been just a complete teaser, but I'm a pretty big fan of how it does seem to be a high synergy, tight game plan sort of deck. Like, that's still speculatory, but that's the direction it looks like it's going in. Very cool.